evening and welcome once again to another edition of our Government at Work program. This program is being brought to you by the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration and hosted by yours truly, Keith Scarborough. It's a program designed to inform and educate all citizens and residents of Nevis, both at home and abroad, of the many positive developments that are taking place here on the island of Nevis. It's another wonderful Thursday evening here in Nevis, and it's a time when we all look forward to a night filled with information and good conversation as it pertains to the continued good governance of the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration. We look forward each week to go deep into discussions with the ministers of government, the advisors, permanent secretaries, department heads, as well as top officials from the various statutory corporations here on the island of Nevis. Each week as well, we make every effort to keep the discussions as frank and as honest as possible so that our listeners and viewers will get a true reflection of the developments taking place here in the land that we all call home. This program, I remind you, is broadcast live on VON Radio every Thursday evening from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Then we broadcast on Nevis Television on Sunday evenings from 8:30 p.m. This and other Government at Work programs, as well as our Bird's Eye View programs, can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, and the NTV webpage. Once again, I would like to remind our Flow Television viewers that our television programming can be seen on Channel 103. And for those of you who have digital TV, our television programming can be seen on Channel 99. So make sure that you log on each and every day of the week for our news package, our informative programs, and of course our entertainment package. We shall take a short break, and when we return I shall introduce my guest for this evening program to you. So stay logged on to the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio 860 AM.
So rise, St. Thomas is rise, St. James is put together and build your land. Rise, St. George's and St. Paul's together with St. John's. This land is enough for all to share. No reason to leave and go nowhere. Foreigners can come here from America and England. There is something mighty sweet about my land. And if the foreigners who live here can insist that it's here they're from, then I swear I'll never leave my native land. One people, one country.
Welcome back. Folks, with the month of May being celebrated as Tourism Awareness Month, I am pleased to have as my guest this evening Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Mr. John Hanley. Mr. Hanley, good evening and welcome once again to our Government at Work program.
Good evening, Mr. Scarborough. Glad to be on the program this evening.
It's a pleasure to have you as well. Now, the month of May is almost over. I know that most of your activities slated for this Awareness Month has already took place, but we shall focus for a bit on them as well as the other activities that are still to come. But first, I want to start this evening's discussion by looking at the just concluded tourism season. We have come to the end of the 2024 tourism season, and from our reports, it was good, and it seems as if we are back to where we were prior to the coming of the COVID-19 pandemic. Some even say that we have already surpassed it, but you are in a better position than me to speak to that. So let me ask you this. If you had to compare the just concluded tourism season to that of last year, what would be your response?
Based on the information that I have at my disposal, it appears that our tourism industry performance is better this year than it was last year. We are still in the process of determining where it is in relation to the 2019, but the hotels are reporting very strong bookings. The tourism development levy earnings, as we all should know, the TDL is currently levied at 2%. Very shortly, as of June 1st, it will be increased to 3%. But based on the 2% amount that has been collected so far for the year, it has shown increase over the previous year.
Great. Now, I am sure that there are areas where you think much progress has been made, and equally, I am certain that there are areas where you think we could improve our tourism product. So talk to us about those two issues, where you think we have made progress and where you think we could do better in terms of our tourism product.
I think Nevis is very strong in terms of its heritage tourism product offerings. We have some unique heritage sites that are managed by the Ministry of Tourism. And what I would like to see going forward is an increased effort being made to develop the experience. Our tourists come to our islands for an experience, and we have a very strong heritage experience, whether it be through getting an educational experience when they visit one of our sites, or through engaging in one of our cultural events on the islands, our festivals, such as, let's say, the Jessup Seafood Fiesta or Culturam or anything similar to that. So those are areas that I think we are doing very well in, but I just think that we need the wherewithal to further enhance the experiences that we have to offer our guests.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Now, there's no doubt that our tourism sector is growing with each passing year since the coming of the COVID-19 pandemic, thanks mainly to the marketing efforts of the management and staff at the NTA and the hard work of the staff at the Ministry of Tourism as well. Of course, you are ably assisted by a number of big-name actors, authors, and others who would have played their part in selling Nevis to the outside world. That has helped in a big way to boost our tourism sector here in the island of Nevis. What are your expectations for the upcoming 2025-26 tourism season in terms of further development of our tourism sector?
We are on a very good trajectory at the moment, and it is our expectation, both at the Ministry of Tourism and the Nevis Tourism Authority, that we will see continued growth. We, of course, sincerely hope that we would not have any external economic or geopolitical shocks. Of course, we are constantly monitoring what is going on in the United States. You know, we are all over the map in terms of, or let me say they are all over the map in terms of tariffs and all these policy changes that are being brought about with the new administration. But we are keeping our fingers crossed, and we are poised to respond where necessary, so that we can, if we have a situation and we are able to respond in a particular way, given our resources and our support systems, we should be able to respond. Of course, we hope that we don't have any natural disasters that take things out of whack. But those things, all things being equal, if we don't have those external shocks, all indications are that we should have a very strong season up and coming.
Great. Are there any particular areas that the Ministry of Tourism will be focusing on to further improve our tourism product? In any particular area you have in mind where you'll be focusing on for further development or improvement?
Well, one of the things that we continuously do at the ministry is that we continue to encourage human resource development. We have a very strong base in terms of the people that we have on the island. Quite often our stakeholders said to us that one of our greatest assets is our people. Their friendliness, their genuine warmth, their ability to engage. We just have to make sure that these people are adequately trained, to make sure that they stand head and shoulders with the stakeholders in any other jurisdiction. We have to make sure that the particular skills and experiences that our guests require when they come to our destination, that our stakeholders, our tourism stakeholders, are able to effectively deliver these services in a way that is memorable, in a way that sets Nevis apart. So we'll be focusing very heavily on our capacity building and our training. Community-based tourism is something else that we also focus on heavily. Community-based tourism, there are events and certain activities that we have in our communities. We have great food in our communities. We have things like the Jessup Seafood Fiesta, the Barnesgate Breadfruit Festival, and other community-based events. These events are organized and owned by our community, and it is our pleasure at the Ministry of Tourism to collaborate with these products in our community and to enhance their marketing, to give them some pointers in terms of how they could take better advantage of the potential that they have. They're doing quite well, but we have realized, based on our own exposure in other jurisdictions, that there's a lot more benefit that can be gained if our community tourism events are organized in a particular way. So we have been working closely with our community-based tourism partners.
Okay, great. Good to hear. Now, although tourism is our number one money earner, there's a belief among some that not enough is being done to sensitize the general public about the importance of tourism to the economic development of Nevis. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, my response is that that criticism is not well-founded, because we at the Ministry of Tourism have done quite a lot to ensure that persons in the general public are aware of the importance of tourism to the Nevisian economy. And let me point out that Nevis has one of the strongest tourism education programs in the entire region. We start tourism education in the primary school, where all of our grade 6 classes of all of our primary schools, all 10 primary schools on the island, there's a structured tourism education program, which, if I'm to toot my own horn, Mr.
Toot it.
Mr. Scarborough, it is the envy of many islands around in the Caribbean. We have seen some other destinations, and they have been trying for years to accomplish what we have accomplished. We have some persons here at the ministry who are dedicated to going to the different schools, and that is something that some of our neighbors are not willing to do. But we realize the importance of starting that tourism education even at the primary school level, and then we continue it at the secondary level. We engage our students in things such as the Tourism Youth Congress, and you would be well aware, Mr. Scarborough, that our students have done very well. On 3 occasions, our representative from Nevis would have been able to capture the regional title as the Tourism Youth Minister regionally, beating out Barbados and Jamaica and all those other big territories across the Caribbean.
Excellent.
So that speaks to the level of awareness that we have been doing. And of course, I can't end without talking about the importance of Tourism Awareness Month, the objective of which, of course, is to sensitize the general public that the Ministry of Tourism does a lot, as well as the Nevis Tourism Authority. And this is the opportunity for persons to come on board, those persons who have not experienced certain of our tourism experiences, to give them an opportunity. Those persons who have heard about tourism or have relatives who work in tourism enterprises, this is the time for them to be really made aware in practical terms how important our tourism industry is on the island of Nevis.
Okay, great. We shall get to that program in a moment. But let me ask you this. In terms of your awareness program, do you do like radio ads, TV ads, newspaper? Because we recognize you're in the schools, and that is very good. You're training our youths, and that is very good. But there are those who would have left school, and those are the ones who are complaining they're not aware of some of the things that are happening in tourism. That's why I asked the question about brought up the criticism about sensitizing. So is there, besides what you outlined a while ago in terms of going into the schools, which is very good, do you do other awareness programs on radio, on Facebook, on YouTube? Is there any particular media that persons can go to get information regarding the tourism development here in Nevis?
The Ministry of Tourism has a very active Facebook page. So almost on a daily basis, or let me not say almost, but on a daily basis, we post our activities that we do, and we highlight sometimes faces of tourism, as we call it, the persons out there who are working on the ground, the taxi drivers, the persons who are in the kitchen cooking, the persons who are doing our arts and crafts and so on. We give these persons publicity so the persons are aware. When we have our events, we post our information on the Facebook page. Of course, the Tourism Authority, they're responsible for marketing the destination as a whole. But with the ministry, we tend to have a more domestic focus, where we emphasize, the diversity of the product that we have here on the island, and the very important stakeholders and the tourism practitioners, if you will, that we have on the island. So we use social media primarily, and that is especially important for the younger demographic. But we also use radio. We use One Radio, for example, Freedom, and I think those are the main. Of course, the NNC. Those are our main channels of disseminating information regarding
Great.
tourism.
I just wanted the public to get an idea as to where they can go to get added information about the Ministry of Tourism. So I'm glad that you did that. Now, you mentioned earlier that you expect an even bigger season in 2025-2026 upcoming. Is the ministry thinking of any new initiatives for the upcoming season, or just looking to improve what is already in place?
Well, we would like to do some enhancement at New River. So that's going to be our focus for 2025. We have been getting a lot of commendations in terms of the enhancements at the experience there. You have to give some credit to the site manager, Mr. D.O. Hendrickson. As a matter of fact, as part of the tourism awareness activity, we had an event there on Sunday just gone, and I was able to see firsthand Mr. Hendrickson, Mr. D.O. Hendrickson in action. He really is an excellent tour guide. So we want to build on that in terms of the physical facilities on site. So that's one of the things we'll be focusing on. And in terms of the other areas, then we essentially will be enhancing what we already have. You know, I spoke earlier to the capacity building and training. I spoke about the enhancement of our heritage sites, the maintenance and enhancement of our heritage sites. The MGR Park has been a very busy focus. I suppose we'll speak about that later in our discourse.
Okay, great. Now, as was mentioned earlier, Mr. Hanley, the Ministry of Tourism is currently celebrating its annual Tourism Awareness Month. And like I said before, I know that some of the events has gone already, but I want you to enlighten our listeners and viewers of those activities that has already been held before we go into those that are pending. So that next year, of course, those who didn't attend those functions that has gone already will not want to miss it in your next year Tourism Awareness Month. So enlighten us on the activities that has gone thus far.
All right, first of all I want to point out that Tourism Awareness Month in its current form, this will make 9 years since we have been doing it in this particular form. Previously, we had Tourism Awareness Week, which went on for many years, but we revamped it and brought it into this new form, which we dubbed Exposition Nevis, because we saw it as an opportunity to showcase all things tourism on Nevis during this Tourism Awareness Month. We began on Friday the 2nd of May with a launch in the center of Charlestown. We spruced up the DR Wildwin Plaza. We freshened the paint, and we had our landscaper, our head of landscaping, Mr. Sandy Ford, and some other members of staff. They went down and they had it, spruced up, and that is where we had the official launch of Tourism Awareness Month. The following day, we had an environmental cleanup. That's Saturday the 3rd, and we cleaned up the streets in the vicinity of our office. So we're talking about the bypass road, the NEPAC road, and I'm calling these names unofficially, but I think people have an idea as to what I'm talking about. The bypass road, the road from the road that runs past NEPAC, going from Newcut Road going up to the bypass road. And we also cleaned the stretch of road from Pinnis Beach Hotel along the main road, coming up to the Malcolm Gishad Recreational Park. Okay. In all, we were able to collect 33 bags of garbage. So we felt that it was a very important initiative, especially in the context of our theme for this month, which is tourism and sustainable transformation. We wanted to emphasize that the environmental aspect of the sustainability. But before I move on from the environmental cleanup, I want to point out something. Even though we removed 33 bags of garbage, it was very sad. Even this morning as I was driving to work, it was very sad to see that along some of those same areas that we cleaned, garbage has reappeared. So it appears that persons are in the habit of throwing garbage out of their windows as they're driving along the road, or maybe as they're walking, they just discard of their bottles, etc. So we are appealing to the general public to to be conscious of the importance of keeping our island litter-free. There are penalties. Persons need to be aware that there are penalties in place for littering. So it is very important that all of us work together to keep our island clean. We at the Ministry of Tourism and the Tourism Authority, it is easy for us to get discouraged and say, well, what is the use of us cleaning up when persons are just coming behind a few days afterwards and messing up the place that we have cleaned? But we must not get discouraged. We will not get discouraged, because we realize the importance of a clean environment. I remember some time ago I went to 2 Caribbean destinations. I will not call the names. One was very clean and pristine, generally similar to Nevis in many respects. And the other one there was garbage everywhere. It was a real turn off for me, because I'm not accustomed to walking down the road, and every 50 steps I am seeing piles and piles of garbage. We do not want Nevis to get to that point. Nevis is always known to be a sustainable island, and an important part of sustainability is that we must keep our environment clean.
Sure.
On the 4th, Sunday the 4th, we had a worship service at the St. George Anglican Church, and we had about 30 persons in attendance, members of staff, our stakeholders. We had the Taxi Association, we had Mr. Billy Cueto of the Four Seasons Resort, he's the general manager, and some other persons. I think we had some of our students who participated in the Tourism Youth Congress, and we had a lovely time there. It so happened that on that day we had the Harvest Thanksgiving service, so it was a wonderful coincidence that we joined in worship at the time when the church itself was giving Thanksgiving. The Monday, which was a public holiday, we had the Jessup Seafood Fiesta, which began at 11 o'clock there at the Jessup's Community Center. And the attendance at this event, I think it's been going on for something close to 10 years. The attendance at this event has been growing over the years, and there were quite a few people in attendance. I myself had to wait in line for quite a few minutes to get my fried fish and the other things that I was buying. But I was so happy to see that it was quite successful. I have been encouraging the people at the Jessup's community group to expand their wings, so the Ministry of Tourism will be engaging in further communication with them to see how they can take full advantage of something which has grown to a very enjoyable and well-anticipated community event. I have been in other destinations such as Barbados. We have seen the Oystins Fish Fry, and even though we don't really want to exactly replicate the Oystins Fish Fry, at least I have been able to see the benefits, the wonderful benefits, economic and otherwise, that have trickled down to the community. So that is why we have been encouraging the community there at Jessup's to take full advantage of the potential that exists in the Seafood Fiesta event. During the week of the 5th through the 9th, we had a radio tourism quiz, and we want to thank the corporate community because they were very responsive. They came on board and they offered prices such as lunch for 2, dinner for 2, and various other things. They have always been very responsive, and we thank them very much. The quiz generated a lot of excitement, and it was an opportunity for persons in the general public to test their skills in terms of tourism awareness. On Friday the 9th, we had the Heritage Village Live, which is our annual open day at the Nevis Heritage Village. And as usual, we had the school children there. We had some very exciting games, some of which I have not seen before, but the children had a lot of fun. And there was quite a wide variety of local eats to be had at the Heritage Village. The traditional hot bread and butter, and potato pudding, and some other things that really made the day for those persons who attended. On Saturday the 10th and also on Sunday the 18th, we had a new feature which was very well received. And this new feature was what we call a Scenic Island Tour. It was an opportunity for our locals to get to know their country. So we collaborated with Lime Beach Bar and Tours, and basically what they offered was a safari type island tour to places like the Bath Hot Springs, the Division Heritage Village, New River, Cottle Church, St. Thomas's Church. And the tour ended with, well, on the Saturday, the tour began in the morning, so it ended with a lunch at the Cabanas. And on the Sunday evening, it ended with a sunset dinner. And I want to point out that between the two tours, we had approximately 100 persons who participated. So I would deem this activity, this first-time activity that we had on our calendar, to have been a tremendous success. As a matter of fact, persons have asked us to have it every month. I don't know about the logistics of that, but the fact is persons enjoyed so much that they're calling for a repeat. So we are thinking of having something in the future, probably Culturama or Independent. So keep your ears tuned, and once that is organized, we will come back to you. We want to, of course, thank Randy Jeffers and his team at Lime for being so open and so willing to partner with us on this initiative, and for offering that very low and affordable price that encouraged so many locals, almost 100 locals, to participate. The price was only 100 EC, and you got a 3 or 4 hour tour, and you got a lunch or a dinner, and I think that was a very good offer, and so did the general public. So they had a great time at those scenic island tours. We had the Bank of Nevis Tourism Youth Congress on the 15th. That was held at NEPAC, and we had our 3 high schools and our 3 secondary schools rather on the island participating: the Charlestown Secondary School, Gingerland Secondary, and the Nevis International Secondary. The Gingerland Secondary emerged champions this year, breaking the winning streak that Charlestown Secondary had over the last several years. So the student from Gingerland Secondary will travel overseas. Whenever it is that CTO determines where will be the venue for the Youth Congress, the student will travel to that destination. In the past, we have gone to various destinations: Martinique, St. Martin, even in St. Kitts. That is the closest that we have been. The last several years, we have been to the Cayman Islands and the Turks and Caicos Islands. So once the destination has been decided by CTO, that the student who won this year from the Gingerland Secondary School will represent Nevis overseas. We've also been having a number of activities which we call hospitality immersion. So our primary school students and our high school students have been taken on field trips where they directly engage with our tourism practitioners. These trips may have been to places like hotels, and I think one of them was to the Vanilla Farm, which is a project that is being developed on the site of the Hamilton Estate. And the students get a great opportunity to practically interact with persons who are actively involved in the tourism industry. And it is always very encouraging to see the interaction that these students have with these tourism practitioners. And several years down the road, we see some of these same students assuming these same roles. So it tells us that we are achieving success in terms of the exposure of our students. Today, on Wednesday, rather, we had an entrepreneurship training workshop where we engaged about 40 persons, and these persons were exposed to sustainability concepts. And one of the things that I find very interesting is that we were able to include something in terms of digital payments. A lot of times, or quite often, our small stakeholders, our micro enterprises, miss out on opportunities simply because a lot of our guests these days don't walk around with a lot of cash. So that workshop will give them exposure to very simple ways, very simple and very manageable ways to have digital payment options, so that they don't miss out on opportunities to get their earnings when our guests come and patronize them.
Okay, great, Mr. Hanley. That's a whole lot of activities that you have had so far for your Tourism Awareness Month. This evening, as we speak, you are having an event at Passion's Restaurant and Bar there in Cox Village, I think it is. Give us an idea of what that event is all about.
Earlier, I would have spoken about community-based tourism. And if I'm to remind, community-based tourism is a situation where we have activities and events and establishments owned by people in the community. And we at the Ministry of Tourism, we love to partner with and support the persons in the local community. Community is a very important part and parcel of sustainability. So we have Miss Karen Bell, who is the proprietor of Passion's Bar and Grill there in Cox. So we reached out to her and we encouraged her to have a specialized event where local cuisine would be emphasized. So we have been able to get her to agree to put on a lovely buffet dinner, and the cost, even though it's a buffet and there are a lot of choices and so on, the cost is only 100 EC. The response has been very strong. This also is another new event that we have on our tourism calendar, and again, the response has been very strong. So this evening we intend to have approximately 100 persons who will be participating. So we are delighted that we are able to bring that level of exposure to Karen, who has been claimed as one of the top dining experiences, one of the top local dining experiences on the island. So we are very happy for Karen that she has that level of exposure, and we are also glad that so many of our locals will get that opportunity to get exposure and to really enjoy themselves. A genuine, authentic local experience at Passion's Bar and Grill there in Cox.
Sounds good. Now speak to us now, Mr. Hanley, about the other upcoming events that you have remaining for the Tourism Awareness Month.
All right. Most of our events have already gone, but up and coming, we will be having a wellness fair, which will be held on the 30th, on Friday the 30th. That will be at the Bath Hot Springs, so it will be right there in the newly refurbished gardens at the Bath Hot Springs. And basically what will be happening is that throughout the day, persons will get an opportunity to come in. The focus will be on, safeguarding your health. So you can get your blood pressure checked, you can get your blood sugar, your blood glucose, if I have to use the correct medical term, checked. There will be cooking demonstrations, local drinks will be on sale, local food. There would be massages, aromatherapy. So it's a whole package catered towards enhancing person's health. I believe I was advised that somebody would be there talking about the benefits of using hot water therapy. As we know, a lot of persons on the island go to the hot springs when they have aches and pains, or just for general relaxation. So there are certain benefits to be derived from using thermal spring waters, but there are also certain cautions that one needs to bear in mind. For example, soap should not be used in those hot soaking pools, and there are certain limits in terms of the time that you should spend in the pool. So all these things will be focused on. I'm also understanding there will be some prize giveaways. So it promises to be a very exciting event. This is another first-time event because we have never had any Tourism Awareness Month activity at the Bath Hot Springs. But we decided that, seeing that the site has been newly refurbished, that it was an opportune time for us to expose the general public to this newly upgraded tourism product area that we have at the Hot Springs.
Okay, great. It sounds like a wonderful month of activities, Mr. Hanley. I want to take you back to the Jessup fish fry. I myself passed through. You had a little rain, yes, but that function is outgrowing the particular area. Just like we used to have agriculture open at the villa, we had to move it to the park and stuff like that. I believe the time has come for Jessup. Yes, it's a Jessup function, to perhaps take it to the play field above, where there's more room, because the function is growing rapidly, and like I said, the space is getting a little small for that. So maybe that's something you could suggest to them going forward.
That is something I have on more than one occasion suggested to them. But however, I cannot force them. I can only suggest. They have to have a certain level of comfort in terms of organizing this event, because you do realize it needs access to kitchen facilities and so on. Maybe at this level it needs that access to the kitchen facilities and the other facilities at the Jessup's community center. However, I believe with sitting down and working out some logistics, it would be possible to have it at another venue, whether it's at the playfield or the MGR Park or maybe down on the beach. I don't know. We have to sit and work through the details. But it goes without saying that sometimes you have to take a little risk. While being at the center, they're in the comfort zone and so on, and they have everything at their disposal, the water, the electricity, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes you have to take a little risk and just try out something different.
Yep.
And they may very well be surprised to see the increased opportunities that they may have by expanding it and taking it to a different location.
True. Now, in the Awareness Month, isn't it that the time that you normally have the gala and awards dinner?
The time that we have the awards dinner, it has varied throughout the years. There have been some years where we had the Tourism Awards gala during the month of activities. However, we realized how packed the schedule is. Oh. So we decided to have, over the last several years, we have decided to have it as a standalone activity. Okay. Because we love our staff and they're very hardworking and the teamwork and so on is very good. But we want to make sure that we don't burn out our staff. So we want to pace things at a certain way. So that is why we have certain activities in our month of activities. But separate and apart from that, we have our tourism awards and gala in the month of November.
Oh, okay. I just thought that normally during that time. And I noticed there was no night market during that month, Awareness Month of activities. Was that deliberate as well to leave that out?
Yes, that was deliberate as well. Based on information on my desk, I'm advised that we should be having a night market sometime in July. And when the details are finalized, we are going to be putting that on our social media and speaking to NNC and Van Radio, etc.
Okay, great. Well, folks, you're listening to Government at Work. My guest this evening is Mr. John Hanley, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism. We shall take a short break, and when we return, we shall continue with our discussions here on Government at Work.
So right, St. Thomas is right, St. James is put together and build your land. Right, St. George's and St. Paul's together with St. John's. This land is enough for all to share. No reason to leave and go nowhere. Foreigners can come here from America and England. There's something mighty sweet about my land. And if the foreigners who live here can insist that it's here they're from, then I swear I'll never leave my native land. One people, one country.
Welcome back. Mr. Hanley, following Tourism Awareness Month of activities is the rapidly growing Mango Festival. I know that is a function hosted mainly by the Nevis Tourism Authority, but as a sister branch, what part will the ministry be playing in this year's Mango Fest?
The Mango Festival, as we should all be aware, it's slated for the 4th to the 6th of July, and it is eagerly anticipated. We are, when I say we, I speak to the collaboration that exists between the Nevis Tourism Authority and the ministry, because we are working together in terms of putting on the Mango Festival. Yeah. It is organized and administrated by the Nevis Tourism Authority, but the ministry also works very closely with them. So we are looking forward to having a bigger and better Mango Festival this year. Last year we had about 25,000 people on the big event on the Sunday, and it is our hope, all things being equal, that we'll have even bigger numbers this year.
I want to move now to the upcoming activities that are scheduled to take place at the Malcolm Richard Recreational Park. And I'm talking not only of the upcoming Mango Festival, but the scheduled events for the Culturama 51st anniversary. First, how are you preparing for the preparing at the MJR for these multiple events that are scheduled to be held at that location?
I will begin by giving props and kudos to my staff there at the MJR Park. My staff there is very efficient. They are very experienced in terms of handling these large events. I think probably the largest event that we have had there is arguably probably the Culturama Fair, which has...
Food fair.
The Culturama Food Fair, that is. I believe we probably had somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 persons at the park. And through a lot of experience, the park is very capable of managing these events. So what they do in advance, they just make sure that the infrastructure is in good repair. So they make sure that anything that is out of whack in terms of the bathrooms, in terms of things on the ground, in terms of pest management, etc. These things are brought to my attention, and we deal with these things ahead of these events. And by the time the persons who are organizing the event come on board, then all they have to do is to have the basic logistical conversations, and things are put in place. Okay. So I have every confidence in my team at the park.
Sounds good, sounds good. Now outline for our listeners and viewers some of the major events that will be taking place at the park over the next 3 months period.
On Friday of this week, there will be the STEM Expo. STEM means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's an event put on by the Department of Education. And then we are going to have the Mango Festival in early July. Which, all events will not be there. We're going to have the Friday afternoon events, which will be at Brenter's. And before I forget, let me point out that tickets for the Mango Festival events are already available online and also physically. So just check out the Tourism Authority Facebook page, or call the office 469-7550 and speak to Fayon or any member of staff at the Nevis Tourism Authority. You can get your tickets. And the prices are very similar to what they were last year. As a matter of fact, early in May, there were some early bird specials, and quite a few persons capitalized on that. But that window is, I can't recall the date where the cutoff is at this point in time, but if it hasn't gone yet, it very shortly will close. And so we encourage persons to get their tickets early and to secure their space. So we have the Mango Festival, the big event for the love of mangoes, on the Sunday the 6th of July. And then we have, I understand that one of the Culturama events is the, I'm forgetting the name of it. Okay, let me come back to that. So we have the Culturama Food Fair, which will take place the first Saturday in August. And as I said, that's one of the largest events on Nevis, certainly one of the largest events that we have at the park. And last time for the 50th anniversary, we had something like 3,000, 4,000 persons. We had over 50 stalls, so we expect it to be even bigger and better. Tropics is an event that we're going to have. I was trying to remember the name a while ago. So I suppose I had a little senior moment. But I understand that Tropics is one of the events that we're going to have on the Culturama calendar. So we don't have a specific date as yet. Or I don't have a specific date as yet. But as soon as that is announced, we will have that. And those persons who have been to Tropics, you will know that we usually have well over 2,000 persons at that event. So that also is another big event that we have at the park.
Now, in addition to all those events that you just mentioned will be taking place at the MJR Park, there are still a number of smaller events that is slated to take place in and around the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. Any plans to take on additional staff to handle that load of activity that is coming your way at the MJR Park?
If I could have more staff, I would welcome it, but I have certain constraints. So at the Ministry of Tourism, we are very creative in terms of using the limited resources, human and otherwise, that we have at our disposal. So we may have maybe one or two additional persons, but there's no intention to do any major changes to our staff.
Okay. Has there been any upgrades to the park lately? I know that you are in the process of adding a bit more lighting, some more equipment around the children's playground, but I'm sure there may be more in the works than the public is aware of. So enlighten us as to some of the things you've been doing.
We had some maintenance issue with some of the lights that surrounded the central lawn, but we have fairly recently gotten those fixed, so that has greatly improved the lighting in the park. In terms of any kind of flood lighting, that is not our intention, to have those as fixtures. When persons are having big events like the Cultural Arm Fair and Tropics and so on, they bring their own lighting, their own flood lighting. But in terms of our regular operation, we don't intend to have much in terms of additional lighting, because we want the park to be, to resemble natural lighting as much as possible. We want to have that soft, ambient type of lighting that would lead to recreation, as the name of the park suggests, recreation, relaxation, etc. We keep our eye on the park is a high maintenance park. And the government is making great sacrifice to keep the staff on, and also in terms of the maintenance. We have to maintain the lawns, we have to maintain the buildings, we have to maintain the facilities, we have to make sure that everything is in pristine condition, and it costs the ministry quite a lot, but I think the staff does a superlative job in keeping the park in very good condition. I dare say, having visited several Caribbean jurisdictions, having visited several parks around the Caribbean, in Europe, in Asia, in South America, that I must say, I have to confess, that the Malcolm Gishad Recreational Park is one of the most beautiful and one of the best kept parks that I have seen anyway. So kudos to the staff at the MJR Park. I think they have done and continue to do an excellent job.
Okay. Any upgrades to the children area? Yeah.
We ideally would like to have some more rides, but we don't have, not in the immediate future, but it is intention sometime down the road. Well, the 5th anniversary of the park comes up in December 2026, so I would push to see if something can happen by then.
Okay. What about the proposed amphitheater that was supposed to be there? I noticed the movies have been shown on the inside. What about that section? Any plans to follow through with what it was intentionally meant to be? That section there, that amphitheater.
The amphitheater is one of my favorite parts of the park, but for some strange reason, patrons of the park have, should I use the word, shied away from it? I think persons are concerned about the variations in the weather, so they prefer the safety and the air-conditioned comfort of the visitor center. So I think that is why they have not really used the amphitheater as much as they should. I have seen a few weddings down there, and they have been, the layout has been very attractive. So we are actively encouraging more and more persons to use the amphitheater. But as I said, I think people are afraid of the unpredictability of the weather. And you, Mr. Scarborough, in the last several days in particular, we have had some real swings in the weather. So after persons invest all these resources and time and so on into planning events, the last thing you'd want is for it to get rained out, or for there to be a very windy day or something like that, or for the sun to be too hot and you get uncomfortable. So we will continue to encourage additional persons to use the amphitheater. I noticed that with some of our bigger events, that they have been trying to incorporate the amphitheater into their layout. The Mango Festival, the amphitheater will be used. When I was there for the Mango Festival, yes. What the other one is? But I have seen a number of events where the amphitheater has been used. When I was speaking about smaller events earlier, I forgot to mention the Nevis Heritage Festival. That's going to be held at the MGR Park on the 31st, the very last day of May, which is a Saturday. And this is organized by the Department of Community Development, which is one of our very close partners. So I want to take this opportunity to encourage persons to come on out. Last year, that was one of the events on our calendar. So we saw that it was a great event. Persons really responded to the opportunity to get food samples from many different Caribbean destinations, and to, not only food, but also dance and other various expressions of culture. So I believe last year I also did see them making some use of the amphitheater. Okay. So we would encourage more persons to use that space.
Okay, great. Now, the Ministry of Tourism is heavily involved in the hosting of the Restaurant Week, which follows shortly after the Cultural Festival is over. How are plans going thus far for that event?
If I have to make a little adjustment to what you said,
yes.
Restaurant Week actually would fall within, it will immediately precede and fall within part of Culturama, because the dates run from the 17th to the 27th of July.
Oh, really? It's earlier.
And actually, last year it was earlier. Last year was I think last year was the 11th to the 21st.
Oh, okay.
But this year they pushed it back a little to have some overlap with Culturama.
Okay.
In terms of the timing of Restaurant Week, it's a bit deliberate, because one of the objectives of Restaurant Week is to stimulate business for the restaurants during what is considered to be traditionally the slower period. Mm-hmm. So our restaurants will be focusing on tamarind as our local ingredient. In the past, we have had many local ingredients. I think the first one was breadfruit, and then we had pumpkin, yam, plantain, coconut, sweet potato. What did we have last year? Pineapple? No, last year was papaya. The year before was pineapple. So we have had a wide variety of local ingredients. This year we have tamarind. So those of you who love tamarind and you want to see how that is infused creatively in a variety of dishes, we encourage one and all to participate in Restaurant Week. We're still working on the details of our tasting showcase. That is slated for Sunday, the 20th of July. And we have noticed that a number of restaurants have come on board to do signature events at their establishments. And if you look on our Facebook page, you will be able to see these restaurants that have come on board to do specific events at their place. And the Ministry of Tourism will be doing some reels and some other social media promotions, so that persons would get to see what is being offered. We have collected the menus from the participating restaurants, and I must say that at this point in time we have almost 30 restaurants that have come, restaurants and eateries that have come forward to express their interest in participating in their participation in Restaurant Week. That is an improvement from last year, where we had probably close to 20. So the restaurateurs, they are really excited about being on board. And I for one, I really love tamarind, and so I can't wait to try out the savory dishes and the dessert dishes. One of the things I really love to see during Restaurant Week is the sort of creativity that we have coming from our chefs. I remember one year yam was the key ingredient, and you have tasted yam. Yam basically doesn't have very much taste. But when I saw all kind of things that were doing, yam cheesecake and all kind of pies, and it was amazing to see what the chefs were able to come up with. So we encourage one and all to participate in Restaurant Week, 17th to the 27th of July, and be excited by the creativity that our chefs have to offer.
Let me ask you, is it open to all, or there is a registration process?
It is open to all restaurants and eateries on the island. So once the key ingredient has been, well, as a matter of fact, even before the key ingredient is decided, once the date is set, we go out to the restaurants and we explain to them what Restaurant Week is, what it is involved, what it involves rather, what the requirements are for participating, which are basically very simple. And once we explain that to them, they say, yes, I'm willing to come on board, and we tell them you can participate either by offering at least one tamarind-based dish per day during the period of time, or they can also opt to have tamarind-based dishes on specific days. So, for example, they could decide to have tamarind-based dishes on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, or they could also decide to have signature events. And based on the last count that I can recall, we have had about 6 restaurants. I don't have the comparative list in front of me, but we have had about 6 restaurants that have indicated their interest in putting on signature events. So we are very happy for that. We have seen Rodney's Cuisine is sort of the pioneer when it comes to signature events on Nevis, because she started the ball rolling. As a matter of fact, in the early days of Restaurant Week, she was like the poster child, so to speak, of Restaurant Week. She had Taste the Tradition, where she cooked up a storm of whatever it was, coconut-based dishes, and set out everything right there in the yard. Persons were able to come and to experience a very local experience. So I think she sort of blazed the trail, and then other restaurants around, both on St. Kitts and Nevis, started having signature events. So I must commend Rodney Elliott there at her cuisine there at Stony Grove for blazing the trail in terms of signature events for Restaurant Week.
Now, for this Restaurant Week, is there like a winner at the end of the week, or the best dish, or anything like that?
Well, Restaurant Week isn't really a competition. It's just an opportunity for the restaurants to showcase
what they can do.
What they can do in terms of a particular key ingredient. In the early days, we had a Restaurant Week, a dish competition, and we also had a bartender competition. Those are not on the calendar for this year. I think every year we try to shift our focus and have something different. But it's, as I said, Restaurant Week as a whole is just an opportunity for us to drive more business to the restaurants in the slow season when they will be suffering from a reduced patronage, so to speak. And the responses of the restaurants has been very encouraging, especially the smaller restaurants. I think we have probably had better responses and better feedback from the smaller restaurants who have seen this increased business and this increased exposure during the period of Restaurant Week.
I think it would help if there, at the end of the week, there was some particular dish identified as the dish, and that will probably generate even more interest from among the restaurateurs, because at the end of the week, that dish is being shown to the public or told to the public to be the one that you need to buy. That's the incentive, the added incentive, if you may, to have a particular dish. That you say, well, everybody cook, everybody had lovely dishes, but this dish here was excellent. And so that way you give the restaurateur some added incentive for persons to go and
Yes, I want to point out that the first year when we had the competition, somebody from Nevis won the Restaurant Week dish competition, and that was Mrs. Maureen Stapleton, of blessed memory.
I remember
she
that.
passed away recently, and so we fondly remember her in that regard. But Nevis was the winner in that competition. So in future Restaurant Weeks, we may bring back the Restaurant Week dish competition and or the bartender dish competition. Something else I want to point out in that regard is that a lot of the restaurants, because of their chefs experimenting with dishes that incorporate the particular ingredient, they often come up with something that their patrons like so much that even after restaurant week is finished, that becomes a staple
Right.
on
the menu.
Because I've been to some restaurants that have participated, and just the other day I went to a restaurant downtown, and I know we had pineapple year before last, and I was pleased to go into the restaurant and saw a pineapple dish that was featured during restaurant week.
Okay.
So it's not just for the week itself, but it has a lasting impact.
Right. Great. Now, Mr. Hanley, I want to take a look now at phase 2 of the Penny's Beach development, where all of the restaurants are located. That area on a regular weekend normally attracts quite a large clientele. So with the Mango Fest and the cultural activities coming up shortly, it is expected to attract even larger crowds. So tell us about your plans as it regards to the management of that area, with a view of ensuring that things run smoothly throughout this busy period.
All right. Once we are aware that there's going to be an event in that area, we alert our security force. Recently, we revamped our security unit, because previously we had separate groups of employees managing, let's say, security at the Artisan Village, and some at the beach, maybe, it was very disparate previously, but we have decided to amalgamate all of our security personnel under one unit, headed by Mr. Seth Williams. So once our security unit is aware that we're going to have an event, then they put some things in place in terms of scheduling, in terms of deployment of the personnel. Depending on the magnitude of the event, we often reach out to the police for reinforcement. Because, for example, if you're going to have, let's say, the Sunday afternoon event at the MGR Park for Mango Festival, where we expect more than 3,000 persons, we certainly need some reinforcement. If we're going to have tropics, we need more hands.
Right.
So we just make adjustments depending on the particular situation that we have at hand.
Okay, great. Now, I understand, sticking with phase 2, of course, that another restaurant is soon to be constructed in that general area. Shed some light on that for us. When do you expect work to begin on that, and where exactly will it be located?
All right, so the new restaurant will, there are some details I am not at liberty to disclose as yet, but I will point out that the new restaurant will be in the vicinity of, well, let me not say in the vicinity. It would be on the plot of land where the security hut used to be, the original security hut. Persons would probably notice that the security hut has been relocated, so it's no longer at that spot. So they are in the stages of preparation, so they would have done the architectural drawings, and it is being reviewed by the planning department. But so very shortly, persons should expect to see some construction at that site. But it would be right there where the security hut was, right there on that corner as you drive towards the end of the Penny's Beach Road.
Okay, great. Now, are we likely to see other restaurants constructed on phase 2, or this will be the last one?
Tough question. We have determined at the Ministry of Tourism that we want to be careful about not oversaturating our Penny's Beach area. We want to have a certain balance, so to speak. We already have quite a few establishments in the area, so it is likely that we may not approve any further restaurant developments in that area. Whether or not certain small food and beverage establishments may be allowed, maybe one or two may be allowed here and there, that is up for internal discussion. But the general feel is that we have kind of reached our threshold in terms of the number of restaurants. We don't want to have too many, and then it becomes an unhealthy competition. We want to make sure that there's more than adequate business for the restaurants that already exist. So that is why we have established to careful study what is our carrying capacity, and we try our best not to exceed the carrying capacity there at Penny's Beach.
Okay, great. Now we are coming up on the start of the 2025 hurricane season, and we are all aware that phase 2 is very close to the coastline. normal rough seas that affects that area. You and I are aware of that. So a storm of any kind could do dangerous damage to the area. I know that there is very little that the ministry can do if a hurricane or a major storm decides to hit the area. But does the ministry has any sort of plan in place if a storm is approaching that particular area, the phase 2 area where all the restaurants is?
There isn't much we could do physically because it's a low-lying area. One of the things we could do physically, there's a lagoon located right behind Sunshine,
Yes.
a wetland. So what we could do, there's a sandbar at the mouth of the lagoon. So if we are absolutely sure that we're going to be having an extended period of rain, one of the things that we may do is to open the mouth of the lagoon so that when the excess water comes, it runs into the sea as opposed to flooding the surrounding areas. But that accepted, there's little that we can do in the area. Fortunately, as a result of the project, we have a number of drains, and some of the drains lead to the pond that is in the park, and then which overflows into the lagoon. So it is considerably better than it used to be before. But in terms of one of the problems we have during a hurricane is something called storm surge, where the level of the sea rises, and therefore the sea comes inland. I have seen in past hurricanes, I've seen the sea come inland by quite a few feet. So there's very little we can do about that. Apart from warning persons, we can warn persons to evacuate the area when we are about to have that sort of weather. But let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that we don't have any. But in the event that we do, then we just have to make sure that persons evacuate the area in a timely manner.
Sure. Okay, Mr. Hanley, I want to turn your attention now to the Bat Springs. I have observed that there has been 2 visits so far by the geothermal developers to that area. Could you enlighten us a little on the purpose of those visits? Are they looking to do some development there, or the purpose of the visit? 'Cause I know they have been there, and I am told that they are going back there when they come next week again.
All right, as we are, Nevis is positioning itself as a sustainable, a green destination, and we have been pursuing this sustainability path for quite some time. I'm not going to say on this show how long, but it has been quite some time. I'm aware that over the past years they have done some exploratory work in various areas of the island. I know sometime back there were some exploratory wells that were dug in the Hamilton area. I remember sometime in the past seeing the plumes of smoke going up, and I felt that okay, this is it. But there's certain logistical challenges, I suppose, why we have not gotten to fruition in terms of this project. The Bath Hot Springs area is part of our geothermal zone. When I say geothermal, geo meaning earth, thermal meaning heat. So it is because of the geothermal energy that is why we have the natural heating of the waters at the Bath Hot Springs. Yeah. So it stands to reason why we'd have these teams coming to explore the possibility of geothermal energy extraction in that area, because it is naturally an active geothermal zone. I just hope that it wouldn't have any adverse effects on the circulation of groundwater. But I'm sure these people are experts and they have worked out the equations and so on. But in a long and short, because the area is naturally a geothermal area where the underground magma and the heated rocks underground come into close contact with the natural groundwater. That is why we have the hot water flowing naturally out of the ground at that point in time. And you also have what is called a fault line, which extends from further up past the power station Lefco area, going from there right down to Fort Charles. That's what is called a fault line, which is a crack in the earth's surface. I'm speaking from my previous experience as a geography
teacher, yes.
At Charleston Secondary. So because of that fault line, the geothermal resources are even closer to the earth's surface in this general area. So that would explain why we had those experts
Visiting the
that
area.
area.
Oh, okay, great. Now, it's only been about 8 months since the upgrades were done to the bath stream, but I have observed that it is properly managed. It offers a lot more to visitors. The surrounding areas are very well kept. Talk to us a little about the day-to-day operations at the bath stream nowadays, since its upgrades and the whole works.
Okay, so we have a team in place. The Bath Hot Springs officially opened, well, the upgraded version officially opened on the 3rd of November 2024, last year. And we have a site manager in place in the person of Mr. Irvin Simmons. And he has several persons working along with him. He has Mr. Keto Chapman, better known as Rocky. Rocky has been with us for a number of years. Rocky is the main person responsible for the day-to-day maintenance of the pools. And I have to big him up on this show. He's from Bath Village, and he has deep patriotism and deep pride when it comes to the Bath Hot Springs. And he puts a lot of effort into his work. And he, I believe, inspires his colleagues who work along with him. But he has been doing a tremendous job in terms of keeping those pools clean. I think we've come a long way in terms of the maintenance of the pools, because when I just came on board in, I'm not going to say how long ago, but I've been at the Ministry of Tourism for a while. When I just came on board, the condition of the pools left a lot to be desired. And I have seen that through our regular maintenance program, which has evolved to the point where we clean the pools 3 times. When I say clean, I mean power wash. Of course, there's daily maintenance, like getting rid of the leaves and any other cosmetic thing that needs to be done on a daily basis. But in terms of the power washing of the pools, making sure that there's no accumulation of moss and other things, dead leaves and what have you. That is done 3 times a week, and I think the general public is in general pretty satisfied with the level of maintenance that we have. One of the challenges that we have, of course, is the fact that 4 of our 6 pools are located within the stream itself, and especially when we have rain, sometimes we get the overland flow, bringing silt and other deposits into the pool. So that gives us a challenge in terms of maintaining. The last weekend, for example, we had a lot of rain, and fortunately the flow of silt and sand wasn't so heavy, so the team was able to get the pools back up and running. But the point that I'm making is that because of the way the Bath Hot Springs are laid out, it involves a lot of work to maintain. The emphasis on our upgrades had to do with the creation of some gardens, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive. I was there up to last week, Sunday, when we had the Scenic Island tour, and the feedback from the persons who participated was very, very strong. Some of the persons have been to Bath Hot Springs to use the pools, but they never got the opportunity to go to the gardens. In the gardens, we have a fountain, we have waterfalls, we have a well laid out garden, designed jointly by Sylvester Mead, the Heritage Sites Manager, and Mr. Dane Sandiford, who has overall responsibility for landscaping within the ministry at our various sites. So persons have expressed very strong satisfaction with the upgrades that we have had at the Bath Hot Springs.
Okay. Now, a small fee is now being charged for the use of the facilities since the upgrades were done. How is that working out thus far? What has the response been like from persons who now have to pay a small fee?
Well, the Bath Hot Springs is an object lesson in change management, because it was not easy to implement this fee. The persons from overseas, I don't think that we have had much problem from them, because they come from jurisdictions, Canada, United States, Europe, where the cost of access to facilities like that are way higher. The costs are way higher. We are only charging $5 US. I have been to Canada where the average, and that was many years ago, probably about 10 years ago, I visited Canada. And the average cost per person in my contingent, I think there were 4 persons at that time in my contingent, and we had to pay about close to 30 Canadian dollars per person to visit these attractions, and we are only charging 5. So we would have spent about 800,000 EC dollars to develop the site, and the government does have to recoup some costs. The government has decided to allow locals to use the facilities for free. How long that will continue, I am not sure. That's a decision to be made at the higher levels. But I really would want Nevisians to realize that upgrades and maintenance of our sites, there's a tremendous cost to government. So if they're asked to, at some point in time down the road, if they're asked to make a little contribution, a little $1 charge, $2 charge, whatever it is, that, I want persons to be a little more open-minded, because in other places you have to pay a lot, and it really does cost the government quite a lot to maintain these sites. Another issue that we have to deal with, well, 2 issues we have to deal with. One, I think I spoke to it on a previous show, the issue of vandalism. Now here's the government spending $800,000 to upgrade a site, and some wicked-minded persons thought it best to go and break the signs. Even though we have a bathroom on site, they would go and they would indiscriminately just put their waste around the site. It's very distressing, some of the things. It's very distressing to the staff and very distressing to us at the Ministry of Tourism that having put such care into developing the site, that there's that tiny 1% of what I would call bad-minded persons who would go out there and seek to destroy our site, damage our signs and do these kind of things to our site. So I'm using this as an opportunity to appeal to the general public. The government has invested quite a lot in the upgrades of these sites. Please help us to care these sites, because the sites benefit the locals who don't have to pay at the moment. The sites benefit the locals when they go there to use the pools, and also benefits us because the tourists come and they pay, and then that goes into our economy.
True. Now, there has been some talk lately of restoring the original bathhouse, cleaning it up, giving it a facelift, bringing it back into full operations. Could you shed any further light on that for us? What's the chance of that being done anytime soon?
Before I speak of the bathhouse, let me speak about the bath hotel.
I was coming to that afterwards.
Oh, you're going to come afterwards. Okay. All right, so the bathhouse is something that is a project that I really would like to see come to fruition. However, we are challenged by lack of resources. But however, we'll keep our eyes and ears open. There are organizations out there that have grants for this sort of thing. I was hoping that the U.S. Embassy would have been able to cover the restoration of Bath Hotel under the current grant, but they wanted to focus on the Bath Hotel. It is something I would like to see, because I would have had the opportunity to visit the hot springs area in Taiwan, and it's places like those old stone buildings that they have refurbished, and you have to pay some good money to go inside. You can spend a night at the hotel. You can have a great experience in soaking in the hot waters, etc. And these are things you have to pay premium, top dollar for. What I would ideally like to see is for the Bath Hot Springs to be restored to a premium level spa. So all those services associated with top-notch spas, similar to the services you get at Four Seasons and other similar establishments. That is what I would ideally like to see, because this is something that people are willing to pay a lot of money for, to be pampered in a spa, and it is something that I would like, whether maybe some investor, or maybe if the ministry can find some sort of grant or some sort of donor agency that would help us to develop the Bath Hot Springs. But it is something that is certainly worth our while to develop.
Okay, great. Now, I know there are efforts being made to have the Old Bath Hotel itself become a World Heritage Site. Do you have any further information on that effort for us?
We've been working on the Bath Hotel, which I think just about all of us would know that it is the birthplace of Caribbean hospitality. It is where the first hotel in the Caribbean was built, 1778. And we have been fortunate to get a grant from the U.S. Embassy for the refurbishment of the Bath Hotel. The works are well on the way in terms of the refurbishment. It is our hope that by the end of the year, the restoration work will be completed, and that we would be able to open the hotel to the general public. We are still in the process of deciding the optimal use of the spaces, but some of the things we're thinking about, some areas will be recreations of maybe our dining room or a bedroom or something like that. One of those rooms of the house, how it used to be, centuries past. You have period furniture, period paintings, etc. So we would have that museum type aspect. There would be some offices in the building, and there would also be spaces for certain local businesses. Okay. Sustainability is not just about preserving the heritage, the history and so on, but it also is, which people often forget, the opportunity to provide economic livelihoods for persons. So we would like to offer some of these spaces to locals to set up businesses that are in keeping, of course, with the historical nature of the building. So we really look forward to the reopening of Bath Hotel. Of course, the reopening of Bath Hotel will expand the experience at the hot springs, so we intend to have it as an integrated experience. So either they will come first to the Bath Hotel and then go down to the springs, or vice versa, but we intend to have everything as one integrated experience.
Okay. Now, is it the NHCS that is spearheading this effort, or the ministry itself?
Well, it's a collaborative effort between the ministry and the NHCS. The NHCS is doing the on-the-ground coordination because the funds have to come through a non-government organization. Right. Okay, but one of our members of staff, our Heritage Sites Manager, Mr. Neil, is the project manager. So the Ministry of Tourism has an everyday presence in terms of the management of the project. So I up to yesterday I was there for a site visit, and I must say that I'm very impressed in what they're doing. Basically, they're trying to get the building back to its original condition as much as possible. You would have worked at the Bath Hotel when it was used as government offices, and you know that certain changes, some of these changes were detrimental changes, unfortunately. They've added all kind of building fabric to it, plywood and other materials, and one of the worst things they did was to air condition that building because the stones need to breathe. Right. And then we also need to do certain things to the roof to make sure that there's no leakage, because we had an issue where water was soaking through certain areas, and we had the mold problem, which caused us to move out in 2016. So we do look forward to having Bath Hotel open back again and adding to the tourism product.
Sounds good, sounds good. Mr. Hanley, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this evening. I think you shared quite a bit of information with us that I am hoping that the general public would appreciate, because I certainly did. I want to give you your final comments for our listening and viewing audience.
I would like to thank the general public for their sterling support of Tourism Awareness Month, Exposition Nevis. I believe this year we saw an uptick. I was very happy at the overwhelming response to our new activities, particularly the scenic tour, and also to the event at Passions Bar and Grill. And we look forward to the continued expansion of tourism awareness on Nevis. Tourism awareness is very important because we keep saying at the Ministry of Tourism and the Nevis Tourism Authority that tourism is everyone's business. Nevis Tourism Authority, the Ministry of Tourism, the Minister of Tourism, the Permanent Secretary of Tourism, we cannot do it on our own. An important part and parcel of sustainability is partnerships. That's one of the 5 P's. So we have to work together to make Nevis, as great as it is, we have to make it even greater by working together. Tourism is indeed everyone's business. So I want to thank everybody, the general public, the corporate community, our tourism stakeholders, staff at the Ministry of Tourism and the NTA, for coming together and working so well to bring what has been so far a very successful Tourism Awareness Month 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley. And folks, we have come to the end of another edition of our Government at Work program. Join us again next week when we shall do it all over again. Do enjoy the rest of the evening's programming. Then have a pleasant night's rest. Good night.